You may have heard the quote from Abraham Lincoln that if you call the tail of a cow a leg, how many legs does the cow now have? Most people say five. Lincoln said no. Calling a tail a leg does not make it a leg. And in the same way, standing in front of a room, showing a slide deck, and talking for 10 minutes does not mean that you gave a presentation. It only means that you spoke while people sat there and appeared to listen. A real presentation is something different. It's more intentional. It's more structured. It's more strategic. A real presentation is a journey with five components: the driver, that is you; the cargo, your message; the vehicle, that's your structure; the headlights, that's your slides, etc. And the destination, which is the change that your audience must experience. That's all a presentation is. It's a structured transfer of meaning from where it is to where it needs to go. So let me use another way to say this. You're the driver, your message is the cargo, your structure is the vehicle, your slides, your props, etc. They're the headlights, the accessories in the car, if you will. And the presentation itself is the entire journey. And one more component to keep in mind, the destination. The destination is not a place. The destination is a transformation. It's a shift in the belief. It's an internal click in the mind of your audience. And I would like you to keep in mind that you're not delivering content, you're delivering change. Today, I'll give you 7 science-backed presentation tips that actually work. Oh, by the way, it's going to be in 2 videos because it's so long. And in this first part, we'll cover the first 3. Each one is grounded in neuroscience, cognitive psychology, biology, behavioral economics, and 15 years training professionals across 3 continents. So, if you want your ideas to really land, this is for you. Let's jump into the first tip. Tip number 1, start with the destination. Most presentations fail before they even begin. You know why? Because the presenter starts at the wrong place. They begin with the slide deck. They begin with the reports they received. They begin with the bullet points forwarded to them, or the slide that their manager forwarded to them at midnight. But world-class presenters begin somewhere else. They begin with one question: where must this journey end? Meaning, what must change because you spoke? What must they now understand because you spoke? What must they now be able to do because you spoke? What is the transformation that's going to occur because you spoke? If you don't define the destination, the entire presentation becomes a wandering walk in the park instead of an intentional journey. And here's the science behind that. Harvard's Business Review published a study showing that clarity of outcome increases audience retention by up to 43%. This is because the brain is destination driven. It wants closure. It wants direction. It wants to know, why am I listening? And here's the trap that most professionals fall into. I call it the destination drift trap. You see, in corporate life, presentations are usually built backwards. They go into data first, then slides second, then structure third. And purpose? Never. And this is why many meetings go long, on and on and on. And because of that, decision stays unclear. And here is a quick tool that you can use to fix this forever. Before building any slide, I'd like you to write this sentence down. This presentation succeeds when my audience dash. So you fill in the gap. For example, this presentation succeeds when my audience makes a clear decision about the next step. Another example, this presentation has succeeded when my audience agrees to release the resources that we need. Another example, this presentation has succeeded when XYZ fully understands the risk and its impact. That is your destination. You give it a one-liner. So remember that moving forward, because that one question alone will elevate your leadership communication. Tip number 2, you want to build a vehicle, not a report. This is where most professionals collapse. Instead of building a vehicle, they build a report. And as you know, a report is dense, it's chronological, it's heavy, and it's correct. But it's unmoving. It doesn't connect, it doesn't move people. Reports communicate facts. On the other hand, vehicles communicate meaning. And that's what you want to build. A seasoned presenter builds a vehicle. A structure is designed for movement. A structure is built to carry the core message from point A to point B. That's why it's quite important to build one. Inside the presentation license, I teach a signature structure. I call it the ABC method. A is for attack, which is a strong opening, a strong question, a story, a contrast, build tension in the audience with your opening lines. Or you throw a very insightful information that they just draws people in. B is the body. We use the 3 pillars. I call it the science, the stats, and the stories. You use that to build because the brain loves threes and it's cognitive chunking as well. In fact, that's one of the most powerful learning models in neuroscience. And C is the close. You echo the opening again. You seal the transfer of your delivery of your message, and then you give them the next step. That's the one thing that has to happen. Here's the science behind all of this. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He explains the idea of cognitive ease. He says that the brain naturally trusts information that feels structured, that feels predictable, and that is simple to follow. And what that means is that a good structure reduces mental effort. A bad structure increases friction. And friction, of course, kills influence. Here's an example from one of my work in Berlin. A senior engineer in one of my trainings had brilliant ideas, but his presentations felt like reading a technical diary. And then what we did was we showed him how to build a clear vehicle. That is sharp opening, 3 clean pillars, a decisive close. His clarity exploded. And of course, his confidence followed through. And that makes all the difference. So what that means is that structure liberates expression and you flow naturally because there's a structure to follow. Here's a quick tool for you. After writing your content, ask, if this were a journey, where does it begin? Where does it bend? And where does it land? Don't just give people information. It rarely does any good. Give them a ride. Number 3 is respect the cognitive load. One of my clients, someone who has gone through the presentation license process from beginning to end, recently spoke at an international conference. This conference had delegates from 30 plus countries. And when he came back, he said, Kunle, I was shocked. Almost every presenter started by apologizing for their slides. They went something like, sorry, this is a bit busy, or I know this is too much text, but please bear with me. I'm just going to explain this text here. And then while the slides were still on the screen, they kept on apologizing again and again. And here's the funny thing. It seems very funny to me because they know the slides are overloaded, but still they depend on these slides as if the slides are the presentation. This violates one of the core truths that we teach at presentation school. Don't get it mixed up. The slide is not the presentation. The slide is just the headlight in a vehicle. It illuminates the road for the driver. It does not carry the idea. And you know, a headlight can help you see the road, but a headlight cannot carry the cargo. The headlight cannot drive the vehicle. Headlights are useful and very good to have. But you know what? The car can still drive without headlights. Yet, most professionals stand on stage and hand over the wheel to their headlights, if you will. They hand over the wheel to a cluttered slide deck and then they apologize as they go along when the headlights blind the audience, if you know, because there's so much on the slide decks. You don't want to do that. Just remember this, your audience did not come to read your slides. They came to receive your message from you. And now here's the science behind why overloaded slides destroy comprehension. Dr. John Schweller, that's who's the pioneer of cognitive load theory, showed in his work that the human brain can only process 3 to 5 chunks of information at once. When you exceed that limit, the brain drops information indiscriminately. That means it doesn't care. It just drops whatever is an overload. Dr. Sweller also showed that reading and listening use the same cognitive channel. That means when a speaker talks while showing you dense, compressed slides, the audience must choose between listening to him and reading a slide. So they're going, do I read or do I listen? They cannot do both scientifically. And research shows that the slide usually wins. This is why comprehension can fall to as low as 15% when a slide is overloaded. And it's not because the audience is distracted. No, it's because the brain is overwhelmed. Dr. Richard Mayer, from his multimedia learning theory, adds something to that. He says people learn best when visuals support the verbal message, but not when they duplicate or compete with the verbal message. So your slide should shine light on the idea, not fight for your audience's attention. So when your visuals, when they reinforce the message, and the brain experiences cognitive ease, according to the work of Daniel Goleman. And when this is happening, the message feels clear, it feels structured, and of course, feels trustworthy. But when visuals overwhelm the message, the brain enters what is called cognitive strain. And at that point, comprehension collapses. And here's the executive reality. Every time that you say, oh, sorry for the slide, two things happen. One, you admit that you knew the slide was weak before you came. And second, you signal that you didn't prepare well enough to fix it. That's a small crack, but small cracks begins the journey of breaking your executive presence. My client stood out at that conference because each slide had one idea and each slide supported his voice. And the cargo, which is the message, stayed in his hands. He was the driver the whole time. So quick tool for your slide detox. Before presenting, you want to ask yourself, can this slide be understood in 3 seconds? Does this slide support me or does it complete with me? If this slide disappeared, could I still deliver the message? If the answer is no, fix the slide because you're the driver. The slide is just the headlight. In part 2 of this video, we're going to the presentation triangle, which is physiology, voice control, attention resets, and how to close your presentation with precision. This is where communication becomes leadership. See you in the next video. And in the meantime, keep your flag flying.